I'm super excited to have Sammy Arriaga on the show today. He's
Let's
a
go.
Miami-born Cuban American who's killing it in Nashville right now.
Thank
And
you.
I mean, we met a few months back, and I was super fascinated by the conversation we had. So I definitely want to dive into all those areas of what you've accomplished since you moved to town and kind of what inspired you.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about like how you've already earned that critical mass number of over 1 million followers across all your social media um, accounts. That's like really incredible. How many years did it take you to build up to that?
Man, it took me a hot minute. I mean, I moved to Nashville in 2011, and just country music was so different when I first moved here, and just the industry in general. I'd say, from the point that I moved to Nashville till like maybe 2017, 2018, I didn't really like embrace social media that much. We had YouTube, we had Facebook, we had Twitter at the time, now X. Um, but I don't think any artist really took
Yeah.
social media seriously because it wasn't like the way that you promoted music at the time. But I'd say maybe when COVID kicked in, that was when the famous TikTok dropped, and everybody started doing those dances and started trying to figure out how to crack the code on the algorithm on there. And I gotta give it to my good friend Ashley Cook. She believe it or not, she was the one who picked up the phone and called me and said, "Hey, Sammy, I don't know why I'm giving you this call, but something in my gut says that you'd kill it on this app, and I'd suggest you download it and like just put your mind to it. It might be a great way to get your music out there and take things to the next level. Like if anybody's gonna do it, it's you." And so I'm like, all right, well, thanks for installing that courage into me. So I just started diving in and getting creative. Started posting my original songs during COVID on TikTok, and thankfully, a good handful of them started catching some momentum. And shortly after that, I dropped my album, and that was when I realized like the scheme of things is changing. Everybody's like shifting to this like social media meta, and that's when I really started embracing short form content, and starting to like almost every move that I made had to somehow tie in with my socials, because again, I'm sure everybody's watch time is exponentially high these days. We're spending more time on our devices than we are in physical state. So I thought, you know what, if I don't exist on the internet, if I'm not posting every single day, I don't exist. And so I've been applying that mindset ever since to now. Um, and over the last year, we started posting more often in Spanish as well. I've been singing and speaking in my native language. Believe it or not, that's my first language, and it's changed my life. And
Yeah,
and just
that's
yeah,
something I wanted to bring up because
yeah,
now, okay, now on TikTok you have over 800,000 followers,
yeah.
which that's incredible.
Thank you.
And then, something that you do that's I think unique to I don't think I've seen really anybody, at least at your level, do it is where you cover classic country songs but do it in Spanish.
Yeah.
And was that like a big catalyst to kind of like exponentially growing on that platform, on all platforms?
It's funny. I hadn't really done that until my dad gave me a call. Everybody's just giving me calls, and being like, "Hey, have you ever considered doing this?" So shout out to everybody who does that. Taking a second of their day to see somebody else win. But yeah, my dad gave me a call, and he's like, "Look, some of these songs I've been listening to on the boat while I'm fishing," and I'm like, "This could sound so beautiful in Spanish. Have you ever
Mhm.
considered taking a Luke Combs song or a Morgan Wallen song and putting a Spanish twist on it?" Because I really think that the Latin community would really vibe with that, and you're bringing all of them together through music, right? At that point, and I said, "Yeah, sure. Let's take Beautiful Crazy by Luke Combs and let's put our own little twist to it." So me and my dad got on a FaceTime and we just translated it really quick. Took us like 45, maybe an hour. And then I hopped that same night on TikTok, and I didn't really overthink it. I just threw my phone up on my office desk and just filmed something acoustic, nothing too polished, like because most artists think that in order to post something, it needs to be polished, it needs to be perfect. But I'm like, you know what? No, I'm just gonna throw my phone on the table and drop a video tonight and see what happens. And thankfully that same night the video went crazy. We had 1 million views by the next morning,
Whoa.
and that was like the instant green light that I had something special in my hands. And so I made a whole thing about it. Every single week I would drop some new version of a new song. We did Cody Johnson, we did Jelly Roll,
Hmm.
we did Morgan Wallen, we did some Randy Travis as well. And most of these songs were personal requests from our fans themselves on TikTok Live. So it was a very organic, fan driven project, if you will,
Yeah.
which is honestly the most valuable thing for me behind this whole project. So
Yeah, and I feel like you tapped into this kind of untapped marketplace of
yeah,
music fans who were like they wanted that. There was a need for it, and then you had this spark of creativity and came through and delivered.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, and then so what? Let's talk about social media a little deeper. Like in terms of strategy, what have you seen that's worked well for you? And maybe it doesn't have to be just TikTok, but maybe just 30,000 foot overview of social media. Like, is it a, like strict posting schedule? Is it the
Mm.
creative behind it? Like, what's been most impactful for you?
I think that ever since I started shifting gears and I decided to embrace my culture and my roots, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm just gonna say it as it is. When I first moved to Nashville, again, things were a little different, right? There was no social media. There was no way to like really prove that you had something special going aside from like ticket sales
Right.
and showing like your history um and selling iTunes songs and being on the top of the charts and stuff like that. Like it was very different. But thankfully now with platforms like Instagram and TikTok, Facebook, YouTube Shorts, artists like myself are able to go directly to the consumer. That's something that the labels didn't really have until 2020 when TikTok came out. It flipped the music industry on its face. And when I hopped on social media, it made me realize how much my community needed a representative,
Yeah.
how much they needed somebody that they can just see themselves in. And so I'm very, very honored to be one of the few country Latino representatives in the genre to embrace the Spanish language and the Latin culture in my music, and hopefully, by me, fighting the good fight, will provide the courage to other artists that are in the same boat to pursue the same thing.
So if I'm following you, the secret sauce, if we want to call it the secret sauce, was leaning into who you are authentically and
Mm.
kind of finding something that was going to differentiate you from the oversaturated marketplace of millions of other artists posting, and you found that one little niche area to go into.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. At the end of the day, like I didn't do it for the business, if you will. I did it because, for years I was kind of living an imposter syndrome. I was kind of behaving as someone that I wasn't,
Yeah.
in order to fit in, right?
Right.
Because you got to realize Miami and Nashville are they're
Completely different.
completely different. Yeah, they're night and day. I was raised in a different environment. But I'm thankful that I was raised in that environment because I was exposed to so many different styles of music, so many different cultures. Miami is so multicultural, which I love about my hometown. But Nashville, it's becoming that. Now it's been again 14 years since I moved to Nashville. But when I first moved here, it was it was Nashville. It was, there wasn't as many Hispanics, there wasn't as many Europeans. That's what you find a lot in Miami. Here, it's very like the South, right?
Yeah.
It's the South. Everybody wears blue jeans, boots, cowboy hats. You know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
there's just like this vibe to it, and I loved it. I loved. That's one of the reasons why I stayed, and I you could hear that in my music as well. I love the Southern culture, and I've been here now for 14 years. Never thought about leaving, and I try now through my music to just blend my love for the cowboy culture, country music, and my Miami and Hispanic background in a way where it doesn't feel like I'm changing anything. I'm just
Hmm.
adding to what's already there.
Yeah.
So.
So, what were some of your early influences with country music that got you into that?
So some of the first artists that I listened to when I was first exposed to country music, was early Rascal Flatts, some Vince Gill. Love Vince Gill so much. I consider myself a vocalist, so Vince is up there for me. Kenny Chesney, of course. You know, Miami is very big on the ocean culture,
Yeah.
and so you hear a lot of Kenny Chesney on the water. Zach Brown as well. And but I'd have to say from a singer songwriter standpoint, just a guy with his guitar, you know, is Keith Urban.
Yeah.
And when I first discovered Keith Urban, it was like AOL sessions. You remember AOL sessions?
Mhm.
He would do like acoustic renditions of some of my favorite songs to this day, like "Making Memories of Us," "Stupid Boy," "Days Go By," "Kiss a Girl." Um, and those are the songs that really opened up my mind and made me realize that country music had a space. There was a space for somebody like me, especially of Hispanic descent, to just grab a guitar and tell my story. Because that's really what country music is. It's just a guitar, some chords, and a story.
Yeah.
Um, and so that gave me the courage to pick up the guitar, teach myself how to play on YouTube. And then one of the ways that I started connecting with Nashville writers and producers um, that you know I thought would be great to collaborate with when I moved here to town, I would actually grab the jewel cases from CDs that I had at the time, and I would try to find names of engineers, producers, songwriters, first and last names, and I would go to Facebook and I would just try to throw their names in and see if they had like an actual running account. And I created like a template message that had like an introduction, a link to my SoundCloud private music, and I would just send it to everybody who I thought would be, you know, open minded to hear me out and support me in my move to Nashville because I was living in Orlando at the time, and I had out of like 100 DMs that I sent out, I had a couple replies, and one of them was one of Keith Urban's main songwriters starting out. His name was Monty Powell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Monty hit me back and like, "Hey man, I like your voice, but your songs need a little work. Have you ever considered moving to Nashville and writing with some people that can help you like achieve that?" And so that was enough for me to drop myself out of college and jump in the car and go to Nashville in
Yeah.
2011 and never look back.
You just need that one person to believe in you,
That's
and
it.
then you're on your
Yeah,
way.
yeah, that's it.
So you've been here in Nashville for 14 years now. So the saying of a 10-year town, does that ring true to you in your experience?
I would say so. You know, I've had a lot of moments in my career where I could have, you know, they could have panned out a little differently. It could have been a 6-year town. It could have been a 4-year town. But at the end of the day, like you got to follow your gut. You got to work with the people that you want to be proud to win with, you know? And I was put in situations where, you know, I was given a great opportunity, but I didn't get that gut feeling that this was the right idea. You know what I mean? And so I'm very big on just following my gut instinct. And, you know, I'm glad it's taken this long, honestly, because it's allowed me as a creator to truly understand who I am, not only as a man, but also as a creator, as an
Mhm.
entertainer, as a businessman. It's allowed me to really understand the ins and outs of the music industry and, you know, kind of approach it in a way where it's going to be beneficial to me and my future family in the long run. Because time is very valuable. It's fragile. And you know, as you guys know, the industry can be cutthroat, but it could also be very great. You know, I'm not the kind of guy that always, you know, pins the music industry to being terrible. There is a good side and a bad side, right? But it all comes down to surrounding yourself with the right people,
Yeah.
people with good-hearted people, um, and just making the right choices, right? And so, yes, it's taken me 14 years. Some people might be like, "Wow, there's a reason why it's taken this long. Maybe he doesn't have what it takes." Well, that's not necessarily the case. I've chosen to for it to take 14 years.
That's such a great point because most artists want that instant gratification. They want to go viral, they want to get a record deal, and they think that's what it's going to do. And then they do it and they get it and it all happens, it comes true, and then they don't know what to do. And then
The
also
paper house effect.
the label doesn't know what to
Yeah.
do. The manager doesn't know what to do because they went viral, they got a deal because they had attention, but they didn't have the actual skill set of being a real artist who maybe can go out on stage and actually captivate a crowd and entertain.
Well, I mean, I always tell my friends all the time, I'm like, look, there's a difference between singing something and saying something, right? And you can say something through your music. And a lot of artists, I feel that, you know, they can sing very great, but they don't know what they want to say to the world.
Mm,
They just
yeah.
want to sound good and look good. But like you want to leave a message behind that people, when you're gone, people can look back on it and go, wow, his music was a powerful message. He left something
Yeah.
beautiful behind, not just sing a few notes. Because in my opinion, there's plenty of people on earth that can sing very well. But can you hit the soul? Can you say something that's gonna forever change somebody's life? You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So
actually having an artistic vision.
correct.
I think that's so
There's
huge.
more valuable. That's more sustainable than anything.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
great singer, well, that's wonderful, but, like, there are a few great singers out there that have been propped up by the the marketing money behind, the major labels, and then I have no idea what that person is really like. I don't know what their identity is, I don't know what they believe in. I just know that they've had some hit songs.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so I'm glad you took your time to figure it all out?
Hmm.
That's good. Okay, something other thing that's really fascinating about you is that you're kind of a tech-enabled artist, which I think is really interesting. And you just recently launched your own coin, right?
Yeah.
Your crypto coin. So let's
Yeah.
talk about that. How did you get into the crypto world, and how have you kind of adopted it to,
Mhm.
parallel with you as an artist?
Man, it was back in 2021. During again, a lot of things happened during COVID. My buddy from Miami, who was already very experienced, and he had just been an early adopter of NFTs and crypto. He's like, man, seeing your fans and how they support you, and then me being over here and doing NFTs, it's so alike. It's very like he was saying something about like your listeners are so invested and they're so willing to just be a part of every little thing you do. You know, your mega fans are going to love if you created something in the crypto NFT world before anybody else does. He's like, have you ever considered launching your own project or launching your own coin? And I'm like, well, I don't even know about crypto. I've never bought a Bitcoin. I've never bought Ethereum. I've never done any of that. So he's like, if you get on X Spaces, which are kind of like X's version of Clubhouse, if you hop on some of the X Spaces, you could talk to people in real time by hopping in there with your profile. And you never know, you might get some information and you might apply it and create your own NFTs and see what happens. You know, take a shot in the dark. And knowing me, like all my friends, they know I'm crazy like that. I just love doing things just to say I did it. And so I hopped in early on, started asking all the questions on Spaces, and eventually ran into an artist that helped me put together some NFT art for me. I found a developer who was experienced in creating cryptocurrencies and what are called smart contracts, which is what NFTs are built on. But I'm not gonna get into the nerdy uh, vocabulary. But yeah, early on, I just found like the right team, and I put together a couple projects, NFT projects that had my music embedded in them. And from like 2021 till 2023, we worked day in and day out on these projects, ultimately changing my life in ways that I never experienced musically. I tell all my friends that even till this day, my projects in the music NFT realm have actually generated us more income as a musician than in my 14 years of doing the TikToks, the Spotify's,
Mhm.
because there's this new thing called the blockchain, which I'm not going to go into nerdy talk. The blockchain has enabled me to basically create that sovereignty as a creator and be able to decide the value of my own work, right? Because on Spotify, when you release your music, you're basically at the mercy of what they're pricing your music at, right?
Mhm.
They're dictating like what your music is valued. Every million streams, it's about $3,500 to $4,000, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Every musician across the world has to follow that model. On the blockchain, I have found ways to shift that, and now I'm the one in control of what the value of my works is. So I've launched like about 5 collections now, and we've tried a good variety of price points uh, based on the way that we launched it, right? So some collections were more limited, so they were a little more expensive per asset, and then some were way more attainable, like $1 or $2. But that's what's called an open edition. So you can buy as many NFTs as you want for X amount of time, right? So we've tried many different ways of doing it. And my most recent way of launching a project is the coin. And that's a very foreign thing still. I'm very new to it myself. But think of it like V-Bucks when you play Fortnite, where it's like an ecosystem token where if you're in a creator's ecosystem, you can basically get goods like physical products, music, limited edition vinyls, you name it, right? The possibilities are endless, but it's a world where I've seen musicians have a little more freedom than the ones that we're living
Yeah.
in the Spotify's and Apple Musics.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
definitely a new frontier for
a new
sure.
frontier. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's
a
a great
new
way to put it.
frontier. And so I think one underlying aspect of that I think artists need to understand before they go try to do an NFT or a coin or anything that's in this new frontier is understand the principle of supply and demand.
Absolutely.
So clearly, through your fans, which I mean, I was looking at your social media accounts and the engagement's really, really good across the board. So they're tapped in and you've built trust and there's a demand for it. So before you even launched it, there was a demand. I think so many artists might think it is a like a cool little shortcut to make some money or whatever the case may be. But if there's no demand, then don't put out the supply.
Absolutely. I mean, I will say too, like you said, it's a new frontier, and a lot of the collectors that have been part of my past projects, they're just so. The word is bullish in that world. Bullish means extremely passionate. They're very bullish on the future of music, the future of art, the future of tokenization. Right? Everything is basically becoming tokenized. That's including money, including art, including just anything. Everything's becoming a token world. And I know that word alone can be a little different for someone, but it's very exciting because it's allowed me to reshape the way that my fans consume my music. It's allowing my fans to be part of something early on. And like I said earlier, I consider myself an up and coming artist still. That fans have many times have asked, how can I help you? How can I invest in your career early on so that you can get to where you want to get, right? And so by me creating these NFTs and me creating this cryptocurrency powered by my music and my journey, it's allowing my fans to do that, to be a part of my growth very early on, in hopes that down the road, supply and demand becomes more. It increases, and thus increasing the value of those assets for the early believer.
Right. And so the Sammy coin is attached to Solano,
Yeah.
right? So when we were talking about it previously, my kind of the way I was looking at it was like, okay, so Solano is like the Universal Music Group, and then you have this indie label under Universal Music Group, which is the Sammy coin.
That's right.
Kind of how to look at it, you
Yeah.
know, if any artists were struggling to, keep up with us on that one. But that's super cool. And like I said, is there any other artists that you know of that are doing or that are playing around with, crypto coins and doing this stuff?
I wouldn't say artists. I'd just say creators all across. Because again, it's such a niche space. But our very own president launched his own coin
Yeah.
named after himself, Trump, and it's out there, and it's performing very well. Artists like Iggy Azalea have done a coin as well on Solana. Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports just has been dabbling in the space recently and has been doing very well too. But somebody like myself who's like, let me see what the next step of technology is going to be. Like, where is this all going? What is after Spotify?
Yeah.
What is after, just everything? I just love thinking ahead.
Talk
It
about
just
vision. Yeah.
it,
Looking
it,
at the
it
next
keeps me going. Keeps me
5 to
inspired.
15
Yeah.
next steps down the road.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's huge.
and it's hard. It's very difficult to, when it comes to onboarding my friends and stuff. I've had to I've had to accept that not everyone's going to be open to it. There's going to be the futurist, and there's going to be those that are complacent. They're happy where they're at. They're scared of change, and that's okay. There's all kinds of people. So my goal lately has been to find those people that are curious and go to coffee and help them put together a crypto wallet, help them acquire their first cryptocurrency, and just see what it feels like, right? Just to be able to say that
I'll tell you what it feels like. It's
Yeah.
scary.
It's scary, but at the same time, like, it's I've had fans say, like, I'm so proud that I bought your NFT back in 2021 because it feels like I was part of a music revolution. Like I own an early NFT from an artist that might have been the first on earth to ever do it in country music. So for them, it's an honor for me, right? For somebody to feel that, to be able to say like they own an art piece, a digital art piece that signifies so much, right? Um, think of it as like like a Van Gogh creating a digital Starry Night.
Mhm.
My goal when I launched my NFTs was to do that, to create digital art, and someone out there collecting it and valuing it as much as that art piece by Van Gogh.
Yeah, and for
So
your super fans who buy the coins or buy the NFTs, it's kind of like a modern autograph, I would think.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's solidified on the internet too. So one great analogy that I use is like a ticket stub, right? Like somebody goes to a concert many years ago and they keep it in their drawer, but over the years, from moving, your clothes hitting it, like moving all over the place, it gets wrinkled and torn, and it's it starts depreciating in value. But on the internet, it's on the internet. It can't get crumbled. It can't get lost. It's stored there safely in your wallet as long as you have your keys.
Yeah.
But it's there. It's yours, and it can't get damaged,
And
and
with
nobody can
this
take that from you.
and with the smart contract, it's almost like, if like let's say I'm a fan of Elvis, right?
Hmm.
And I'm on eBay and I'm like, oh shit, there's this Elvis autograph. I'm gonna bid on it. There's a high chance that that's not an authentic autograph by Elvis. But
Correct.
in the digital space, you buy an NFT, there's a smart contract, and you can
Yep.
authenticate that that was real,
Yep.
you know?
Correct. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, and it's also helped our success with our projects. The fact that as an artist from Nashville who has TikTok, who has Instagram, I have a bit of a track record. That alone was a huge benefit when launching these collections because people can look back at everything that I've accomplished in the past as an independent artist, and it only like fuels them more to want to do it,
Yeah.
to want to be a part of it. And so um, I'm very proud to say that I'm still to this day, considered an independent artist that's used all the tools in front of me to break through and find my audience. And we have a little bit from the NFT crypto world. We have a good amount in the country music world and TikTok and Instagram. And so my mission now is to intersect the two worlds in a cool, innovative way that doesn't feel scary.
Yeah. That's great. And some people are scared of all this stuff, all this technology, and whether that's going on social media or diving into the crypto space or NFTs and things like that. But we've always had a new tool in all of humanity. There's always been a new tool,
Hmm.
and it's either like you're going to survive because you use the tool or you're going to fade away. You know
That's
what I
right.
mean?
Yeah, TikTok was scary once.
Once. Yeah.
That's what I tell people all the time. TikTok was scary once, and now it's like the go-to platform.
What would you say to some artists out there who's maybe a little nervous about really fully leaning into putting themselves in social media and figuring out how do I figure out my voice on social media? What should I even be posting about? I just want to be an artist. I just want to write songs. What would be your key pieces of advice you would give them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I get this asked all the time actually, because a lot of artists that I personally know, don't they just don't like using their phones. They want to stay away from their phones as much as possible, which I wish I could do that,
Right.
But we live in a time where people are posting about almost everything. Like their whole life is being broadcasted on the internet. Um, I honestly tell my friends that their story, like what they've experienced personally, is their number one advantage over everybody else because what you went through last week, I didn't go through that. So that immediately makes you unique,
Right.
right? And so I tell all my friends, take your actual experiences. Like if you went through a breakup, don't be afraid to tap into that and share your story because you don't know how your story can help someone else, can be healing to someone else. Just, connecting with somebody like you. Um, and also being authentic, like we talked about earlier, me embracing my roots and speaking in my native language was something I was scared of for a while. And it wasn't until I did that, until I just broke the ice and just did it,
Yeah.
that everything started moving in a positive direction. Everything just started making sense. And I wasn't living that in that imposter syndrome anymore. Um, but I just tell everybody to be honest as you possibly can be. Uh, be unapologetic when telling your story. Be fearless. Um, and it doesn't have to always be polished. It doesn't always have to be shot by a $3,000 camera and recorded in the studio. Sometimes the more organic, authentic, like homemade content is what wins at the end of the day.
Because it's
So
relatable.
it's very relatable, correct. A perfect example of that is Gabriella Rose, who recently posted her original on TikTok, and she was literally just banging on her guitar in her bedroom and sang her butt off on her iPhone. There was nothing polished about it, and it changed her life overnight. She got like 30 million views on that video, and it even went viral on Instagram. That's how viral it became. It was like a cross-platform virality, which is very rare to come by. But it all comes down to authenticity and rawness and relatability.
Yeah.
And she's the prime example of that. And I wish more artists, followed in her footsteps.
Yeah, and I think, being vulnerable and being authentic is scary for artists. And one of the reasons could be fear of judgment,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I deal with that myself.
Yeah, how do
Yeah.
you how do you get over fear of judgment and just go for it?
I find I basically write 10 ways that I want to say what I want to say. Like what initially made me afraid of the judgment. I just try to find 10 creative ways to say it without saying it.
Mm,
So if it's through music, if it's through a funny video, if it's through like a monologue with someone else, like just like a kind of like something like this, even a podcast. Um, th- like situations like this one allow me to share my thoughts that I wouldn't just put my phone on a kitchen table and talk about it, right?
because it's weird because you're talking to nobody.
You're talking to nobody,
In the
right?
moment, you're talking to
Correct.
nobody.
Correct. But when somebody on the other side of the screen is watching two people converse about it, it immediately shifts their brain to go, oh, this is safe. He's not talking to me directly. He's talking to someone else. I'm just going to be like an overlooker,
Hmm.
if you will. So content like this is honestly like the best educational pieces, in my opinion, and a great way to overcome that fear of judgment.
Yeah, and that's specifically for musicians and artists. That's something you're going to have to face is judgment. Whether you're up on a stage performing live, you're
Yeah,
going to be
that's
judged,
the
good or
life they
bad.
signed up for. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you gotta. It's part of the game.
Yeah, you gotta just pick and choose, right? I've chosen, as an artist to live this life, um, and I just aim to put out things into the universe that will only be good judgment. Even though this coin, for example, there's a negative stigma behind coins at the moment due to all the terrible coins that are like taking money from people and not providing any utility, not providing any transparency. But I'm trying to go, the total opposite of that. I'm trying to provide full transparency and, prove to people that, if they're part of something early on, an artist like myself that's, continuously putting out music, continuously playing shows in front of thousands of people and educating and onboarding day in and day out, that's going to be a direct influence to the value of the coin
Right.
in the long
And you've
term.
created it with goodwill and good intention because
Absolutely.
you've built it for your community, your fan base, because they're going to use the Sammy coin to directly purchase like fan experiences, right, with
Hmm.
you, or whatever the case may be. I don't know exactly, but it seems
Exactly.
like it's all like tied to merch and experiences with you as an artist. So it's built for the fan base, you know.
Absolutely. And look, we're still very early. We're still figuring it out as we go. People still haven't even figured out the true use case of NFTs. But over the years, I'm very proud to have put together certain experiences for those who collect them. Um, in 2023, I put together an event at the Soho House here in Nashville where only collectors of those digital assets were able to attend. And proudly I was able to attract 60 plus people from all over the world Some flew in from Hawaii, some flew in from Europe
Damn, that's crazy.
just to be part of this event. And, we have video footage and photo footage of it all. And I brought some other musicians that are in that space as well to join me, to be part of such a beautiful moment of, this grand shift of things, right? And people were just there to celebrate that, right? They're part of something that can potentially change, shift the tides of the industry as a whole. And so, we still talk to those people till this very day. They're very invested in what we're doing in country music and on the road. They come into the shows all the time. And I've even, provided special benefits for those that have collected those NFTs over the years. That when they come into a show, they'll get access to like a meet and greet, or they'll get like a hang with Sammy before the show starts, or something like that, or early seating where they can like get in the front row before everybody else. Providing these benefits for simply holding these assets,
Yeah.
right? And so I do see a future of where assets will provide those kind of benefits as well as the coin.
Yeah.
And so one cool thing we recently added to my world is we added the ability to pay for merchandise on Shopify with Solana. So that's the first step towards the Sammy coin. So Solana is like the main cryptocurrency, and then Sammy is a derivative of Solana. For those of you who don't know the difference. But the cool thing is that, now my crypto fans, those that don't want to pay in USDC, they can now pay with their Solana, right from their crypto wallet. All they got to do is when they're at the checkout in my Shopify store, they just select Solana Pay, connect their crypto wallet, and it'll detect the crypto you have in your wallet. It'll find the exact dollar value that it would have cost them to pay with a credit card, and it would just convert that Solana using the backend technology and drop it in my wallet in USD stablecoin.
It sounds like the future of the independent artist
Mm-hmm.
to me. What a time to be alive.
It's amazing, man. It's cool.
That's cool. Let's talk about your new single that just came out, Left My Heart in Texas.
Let's do it.
Talk about being authentic and leaning into who you are and your roots and your culture, the accordion.
Yes.
Yes. So tell me about the song and how that all came about and the production, and like when was the moment like, let's put an accordion on this?
Man, I again, being raised in Miami, I was exposed to so much music growing up, and it really made me the artist that I am today. But when I moved to Nashville, I instantly fell in love with country music and knew that was the genre that I wanted to be in and wanted to write in as well. But I've always had a very deep appreciation for Mexican music, and just their instrumentation, like trumpets and accordions. And being so well embraced in Texas with all this new music, I thought it'd be a really cool, honoring way to incorporate some of my favorite instruments that are heavily used in Mexican music in my new songs. And so, Left My Heart in Texas was a true story. I actually played a show in Texas once, and I met a girl after the show, and there was nothing more than just a meet and a beer, but I just loved her vibe so much, and deep inside, I was like, I wish a girl like her would live in Nashville, like somewhere where I can actually like be with them, right? Because long distance is never easy. And so that's where the title of Left My Heart in Texas came. It's like I really wish she would come to Tennessee and just change it all for me.
So you're wearing this hat right now. Follow me to Tennessee. Is this a
No,
callback to the
I
girl
actually
right now?
bought it from a store because I thought it was funny.
Okay. Well, it
But
applies.
but let's just say it applies. Yeah. But yeah, that's where the idea of the song was born. And now, looking at all the love that we're getting on all this new music, I've noticed that the majority of the love we're getting is coming from Texas. And I'm not surprised because Texas is very heavily populated by Hispanics. There's a lot of Hispanics and bilinguals in Texas. So we've gotten tons of love from all over Texas, and we're going to be touring a lot this year there. And we're excited to reveal some more things very soon in regards to the new single. And what we're gonna do in Texas.
Yeah, you
So,
could do a whole circuit in Texas. I mean,
yeah,
it's huge.
yeah. We got some prizes up our sleeves.
Nice.
Let's go.
Thanks for coming in, man.
Thanks, man.